Welcome to episode 78 of Christian Geeks Rockcast. We have myself, Steve Chalk, and Britt Mooney.
What's up, everybody?
Hey. It's been a while, and that seems to be my thing that I say at every episode now because I think I mentioned this before we started recording. I I have great intentions of, hey, let's record every couple of weeks, but then turns out we're pretty busy. So, and you've been sick and all this
Yeah.
stuff, and I've been traveling, and yeah,
Yep.
stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Yeah. And, you have stuff during the week with your kids too, a lot, or sometimes at least. And so do I. And
Mhm.
it just kind of gets one of those things of trying to find a good time. And one day when we make $1 million a week on this, we'll look back and say, hey, we powered through. We powered through.
Making $1 million a week? That sounds amazing. How could we do that possibly?
I
How
don't
about
know. What
merch sales?
merch sales? Yes, we could make $1 million a week on merch sales.
So everybody get cracking and buy like if everybody listening buys roughly, I don't know, $100,000 worth of merch. So we should be good
I think so.
because
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, if you're on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing my Christian Geeks Rockcast t-shirt, which is the stacked logo design. Now, I will say that I've only been showing two t-shirts and like the social videos I've done, and then here I've shown two t-shirts, and I've shown the one like metal mug. There's a whole host of other things that we have on the merch store, but you'll have to go check it out. I'm planning to do something with the website, like put a little like banner to click on, because right now it's just in the menu, and you could go directly there, but the URL is a little clunky.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm trying to find an easy way to get people there, and I think maybe putting it on the website might be a banner on the website. But there's other T-shirts, there's other themed stuff. We've got the but is it metal shirts? We've got and we got lots of hats, um, alternative mug and a metal mug, other kinds of logo coffee mugs if that's your thing. But yeah, it really is just like we're not gonna go under if you don't buy anything. But you know,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun to have out there, and if it's something that interests you, we would encourage you to go check it out.
Yeah. My recent idea was to, and I didn't think it would work, and I don't think it doesn't, but like a trapper keeper, man. Like we got to go full 80s. We got to get like a trapper keeper and Christian Geeks and have all the logos of all the bands on there. I mean, I just think that would be, I would buy that. And that's how I think. I was like, what would I buy? Like, what would I actually spend money on? And yeah, I don't think they have that option in the list.
No, I think what would make it more authentic is if it were like hand drawn versions of the logos, like we used to do back in the day. Like I don't know how. I mean, literally, and like if I look at the Striper logo, and I look at the Petra logo, and the one with the sort of shaped like a spaceship with a little
Oh
flame
yeah, yeah,
coming
yeah,
down.
yeah.
That is always the classic. And in fact, when we saw Petra last year, I was extremely disappointed that I couldn't buy a T-shirt. I would have paid. I hope my wife is not listening. I probably would have paid $50 for a T-shirt that just had that logo on it, because that to me is the wheelhouse of when I was really into them back in the sort of early to mid 80s. But I mean, the logo that they were using for the 50th anniversary tour was one from like the debut album. But let's be real.
Yeah.
Like that was 50 years ago,
Yeah.
51 now. But
More
anyway, but
power
yeah,
to
I
them.
drew. I see what you did there. That was nice. But yeah, I drew that logo. I drew the Striper logo dozens of times all over my notebooks, all over my pop quizzes, test sheets, everything. So, um, anyway, it's funny because our buddy Garrett Godfrey from the Good Patron podcast, he got curious about what our theme for today's show was, and literally while we're recording this, we just got a direct message from
Just got
him
a message from him. Like literally
with
it
a
just happened.
yeah, like literally in our ears as I was talking about the Petra logo, where he's suggesting different songs. I'll need to check out and see if any of these songs are on my list. This is pardon me while I look at I'm guessing probably not because the list or the theme that we have is actually no, none of these, but they're good. These are good ones for the most part. I'm not sure Ray Boltz fits our wheelhouse for this podcast, but for
I do like some Ray Boltz songs, but no.
man, that song "Thank You." Okay, maybe this does fit our podcast because when I was doing a Christian rock show on the radio station back in the late 80s, we would have people, it was kind of a running joke because people would call up and request Thank You by Ray Boltz during that Saturday afternoon, like 4 hour rock shift when, I'm playing Sacred Warrior and Scattered Few and Daniel Amos. And I was like, I really appreciate the call. However, I won't be playing that this afternoon. I'm sorry. It just doesn't fit.
Nope.
I love that song. Like, probably not today. Anyway, so sorry for that little tangent I went on there. Garrett got me sidetracked.
No problem.
So the theme today is after school special songs. Now,
After
explain
school
that.
special songs.
Explain that from your perspective, Britt, and then I will give you what ChatGPT told me to say.
Well, first of all, it seems a little appropriate, seeing as how over the next couple of weeks, your wife and my wife will be finishing up the school year. So there will be after school, maybe by the time this episode comes out.
I hope it doesn't take that long.
Hopefully it doesn't take that long. No, but and of course, we're very connected and involved in education because of our wives and some of my past, obviously. And I kind of got this idea because especially as we've been doing some of these albums, I'm remembering how many issue songs there were, how many, songs dealing with different moral issues or cultural issues that might have taken place. And when we were kids, I don't know if it happened in the 70s as much, but definitely in the 80s, there was something called an after school special. And literally it was put on TV, like a half-hour little thing. And it was put on TV in the afternoon after the kids were supposed to be home from school, generally high schoolers. And it dealt with some issue, drug addiction, say no to drugs, or don't have sex before marriage, or something like it had to deal with something cultural in the 80s. So there was sort of that a little more conservative viewpoint probably in the 80s. And I don't know exactly how much of the government was involved in this, but there definitely was this idea from the 70s, late 60s through the 70s, of like using television to educate and help teach and instruct kids, right? You have Sesame Street, Rogers, and all that sort of stuff. And then a lot of times when you dealt with like G.I. Joe, and like they finally changed the laws where they could have toy manufacturers could make cartoons that were pretty much commercials for a toy, but then they would try to have some sort of moral involved, like at the end of He-Man and G.I. Joe, and knowing is half the battle. And so there was this sort of attempt, at the very least, to moralize a little bit to kids, right? This is how you're a friend, and you shouldn't lie, and you shouldn't bully, and blah, 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 all that stuff. And so as we've been going through a lot of these albums, especially Atomic Arena by Barren Cross. It's like you start to notice how often the Christian industry would try to do the same thing. And I think it happened in the secular industry a little bit, but I think the Christian industry even more tried to address modern issues with faith. And that's a very biblical thing. It's not like but it just kind of sometimes would remind me of those after school specials. So when we were talking about different themed episodes we could do, I just threw that one out there saying like, man, there are so many songs. There's at least one or two on almost every album that we do that we could look at and go, hey man, these were these kind of issue songs. And I just called them the after school special songs.
No, I think it's good. It's like when you mentioned that to me, I was like, ooh, because I think there's a lot of themes we could do. Like our buddy Jim Richardson, shout out to Jim, who's going through some chemo treatments.
Shout
So
out to Jim.
prayers for Jim that he gets through that stuff really well and gets back on the mend. But Jim gave us he gave us another I can't even remember what it was, but it was like, but it's like I've got this sort of list of possible. Well, I don't even know what to call these episodes where we're just taking random songs. Like we did the perfect album or the perfect songs, which I think we're due another one of those at this point. But then Easter songs and just all the things because I
Christmas.
think they're.
We've done Christmas albums.
Mhm.
We did Easter. What else did we do?
Yeah,
Was that it? Anyway,
it's been over 4 years now. My brain is
I mean,
and I haven't gotten any younger in that process. So,
yeah.
but
So,
there's a lot of cool things we can do. But that was a very good explanation, Brett, and I really appreciate it.
however, the
Chat
internet knows more than
GPT,
I do.
yeah, the internet. Typically, I don't like to script things on this show, but here we are. I just want to tell you what. Now, let's just act like I'm coming up with this on the fly because most of this podcast is just coming up with things on the fly, which sometimes is pretty obvious.
Got it.
But here you go. On this episode, we deep dive into the world of Christian rock from the 80s and 90s, uncovering powerful songs that didn't just preach, they spoke directly to the struggles of a generation.
Hmm.
From the heartbreak of broken families to the dangers of drinking and driving, from the pain of addiction to the tough questions around abortion and runaways. These songs tackled real issues with honesty, grit, and hope. Join us as we explore the stories behind the music, the artists who weren't afraid to speak truth, and the lasting impact of these anthems of compassion, conviction, and redemption.
I love it. I actually like it.
I know I read it and I'm like, that's what's bad about.
I rambled for like 10 minutes, but that was like, 30 seconds. So good job.
Well, I mean, and I'll say this too. I went to last week. I was at a Christian leadership conference for basically people in some level of leadership, I guess, at
Was that here in Atlanta?
ministries. No, it was in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
But so it was. I went to several AI related um, AI related
Like
sessions.
panels or sessions or something.
Yeah, and for the I would say probably 80% I thought were really, really good. Like they're essentially like you got to lean into it a little bit because if you don't, you're going to be left behind, and not the good kind of Tim LaHaye left behind. Actually, that's bad kind. Never mind. But it's like it's the but then some of the things that people were suggesting were a little about. I was like, yeah, well, I don't know about that. But so it's you know, so maybe this use of it where I just read that is maybe
Yeah,
that's a good use for. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, that's not to say that we're going to be dabbling in AI scripting anytime soon. So, but you'll probably understand if you heard that and then you've heard us talk for what 70 plus 78 episodes now. That doesn't sound like me.
No. And we pretty much we ramble the way that we do and go on tangents enough that this is not AI. All right,
Okay, we got lots of stuff. I got lots of news. You want to talk about some news?
let's do some news.
Okay, actually, a couple of sad things to pass along here at the beginning. Just earlier this week, we found out that Derry Doherty from The Choir and the Lost Dogs, his son passed away.
Yeah,
Apparently, tragically, don't know any details, not important, but yeah, so a lot of sadness in the choir camp. So please keep them in your prayers, the Doherty family and the all the surrounding bands and so forth. And then last week, Mike Peters from The Alarm, he's been battling cancer for many, many years, and he finally succumbed last week, unfortunately. So that's a couple of sad news items to start off with. But moving on, so keep all those guys in your prayers, if you would. And then a couple of Kickstarter updates. The Lost Dogs, I think their album is called Trick of the Light, I think is what it's called. Um, but it was fully funded within like their goal was I think $60,000 and they hit it within just a handful of days.
yeah,
Um, but what I like about it, and this is something I've thought about, and we've talked about like the with the 77s Kickstarter recently, and then some of the other ones, like the Galactic Cowboys was another one where it's like the goal is kind of an audacious goal, but for the first time in a long time with the Galactic Cowboys and the Lost Dogs, they actually went to a studio and recorded. Because you think about like the Bride model and some of the other ones where they're just like recording stuff and then, and then they send it and they FedEx it across the country or whatever. And then but they actually got in a studio and recorded. So that talk costs money, but I think the $60,000 covered all the recording costs and the manufacturing costs and all that stuff. But Dan Michaels, who I think is helping out with all this stuff. I can't remember if it was a message within the Kickstarter or it was something on Facebook or whatever. Essentially, what he's saying is $60,000 covers the costs. Anything above and beyond that is like, let's bless these guys. And so it's kind of like at this point, like if it can get up to $120,000, then that's a good chunk of money that these guys will get out of this that is helpful to them,
yeah,
And that's kind of one of those things where it's like, that's kind of why we do this podcast. I feel like that was one of at least that was my heart behind it at some point was almost like a love letter to this music that we love so much. And we want to reignite the passion for it in people and maybe introduce some people to music they never listened to and subsequently sell some records for these guys, sell some tapes, sell some CDs, get some downloads. So I think that's kind of cool.
yeah. I think it's super cool, and not to belabor it, but just as we've talked about, it's almost impossible to make money selling CDs or streaming at this point. And so these Kickstarters are great ways for these bands and artists to make sure that they get at least something and get stuff paid for up front, and and then they can be a lot more generous, and they can not have to worry as much about the sort of the streaming, trying to make money off of streaming, which nobody does. I mean, it's awful. So yeah, so there you go.
Well, it's like
It's awesome.
if you think about it, I mean, it's like, let's just say hypothetically, each of the four guys from the Lost Dogs gets $10,000 that they out of this that they can just use to help pay rent and buy groceries and that sort of thing. They would have to have probably millions of streams to
Right.
make that kind of
Exactly.
money.
Exactly.
It's just nuts the way that whole thing works. So I think it's awesome. They met their goal, so at this point it's kind of gravy. But if you want to get in on it and get some good new music from these guys, that's the way to do it. Is head over there. I will link all these Kickstarters in the show notes, and they're on our Facebook page too. I've already shared them. But okay, so next Kickstarter, Prayer Chain. I'm This one confuses me a little bit, only because
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's not a re-release of Mercury. It's kind of celebrating the anniversary of Mercury. And this may come down to a rights, like who owns the rights kind of thing. Like they're not really saying that, but I wonder why you wouldn't just do a full-on remaster of Mercury and release it. But from what I can tell, and I copied this directly from the Kickstarter, this Kickstarter will help us release Communion, the original collection of songs we submitted to our label before it became Mercury. So it's kind of like, I guess, demos for Mercury, but I don't know. I don't know that I ever owned Mercury until recently. I found it at Goodwill. So,
I bought Mercury when it came out because, as we have covered, Shawl, one of my favorite albums of all
mhm.
time, a very influential album for me as a songwriter and musician and singer and everything. Um, I did not like it when it came out. I was like, I was kind of disappointed because I was all into Whirlpool, I was all into Shaw, and I was just hyped. And I don't listen to it. I mean, I've tried to listen to it recently just to see, like, well, I'm older, to see if and I just kind of, it is what it is. But it's an anniversary, and I'm not alone in it probably, but there are a lot of Prayer Chain fans who love that album. And
Mhm.
so they're excited. They're talking about doing like a show or two, like in Nashville
Mhm.
again. So we'll see. But I'm
Yeah,
just
that
honest. It's just, I was never excited about that album. And I've heard some of the interviews that they did. I think the bass player was on Imaginary Music with Joel. And I think I listened to that. I think that's who that was. Anyway, I just kind of saw how they were pretty much already breaking up at that point. Like this was kind of their little bit of a swan song, and they didn't kind of put some of the maybe energy into it that they would have normally. But anyway, but
yeah.
good for them. Like I'm saying, like there are fans who will. I think it's great for these bands to do it. Like, there are fans who love it. So
And
try to leverage, and with social media you can leverage those sort of things, and continue to be creative and all that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's already been funded, so it's like it's on the way. But again, it's I think at this point where they were recording, there's like 10 days left. So we'll link that in the show notes as well. But yeah, I had the indie Perching cassette. I had Mercury, I mean not Mercury, I had Whirlpool, had Shawl. And then as with the ebbs and flows of life, it's kind of funny how I can see like there are times when I was like, you know what? I'm good with Shaw. Like I didn't feel like at that point in my musical whatever, and we've talked about this on here before too. That was about the time I was getting out of college and starting to live in the real world and get a job and make real money for the first time. And when I mean by real money, it's like money where I was making enough money where my parents stopped supporting me, so I had to pay all my bills, in which I was barely making enough money to pay all my bills. So it's like buying music became less important. So that's why there's like a lull in the early 90s where I was kind of like, there's some things I just didn't get. Like I didn't buy everything from everybody.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of that way now. I mean, if we're being real with all the re-releases, it's like, we talked about this before too. It's like, I can't afford all the things I want.
Oh,
And they're probably going to sell out and I'm not going to be able to get it. But I just have to come to grips with that.
I'm with you. Have to, that's life.
Hmm.
And I know there's a lot of people who listen to this who are in a similar situation as we are. We got kids in college and high school, and part of me and you and being a parent, part of us wants to pay for everything our kids want.
Hmm.
But a better lesson is we have to choose certain things because we don't have that kind of money. And it's
Hmm.
probably good that we don't. It's probably a good lesson to say what's really important. How can we make this work? Here's a budget, all of that sort of stuff, instead of just being like, because that helps teach kids as they get older that they're going to have to make those decisions too. That's just life.
Yeah, I think
So,
it's a great lesson.
and anyway, so that's my after school special, little speech.
It's all theme. The whole thing is a theme. Everything's themed.
uh,
No, no, that's really good. Yeah,
I think
I
Jennifer
feel like
Aniston was in that one. Jennifer Aniston was in that one as a teen.
that makes total sense. That's just the way she is. Um, Keeping on with the news, I posted this like earlier, like a couple of days ago or a few days ago. The that you can be in a human code video. So, and I think you commented and said like, "Hey, let's all get on there." Of course, I have not done that yet, but I probably ought to. So, it's in you have to look at our Facebook page, scroll down till you see Mike Lee or Michael Drive or whatever calls himself nowadays, talking about it. He gives you instructions on how to
How
be a
to do
part
it.
of this
Yeah, yeah,
music video. I'm not going to go into it here, but you can just find it on our Facebook page.
yeah. Can I mention one thing? Okay,
Please.
so Barren Cross, which really wasn't all of Barren Cross. I think it was just Michael and Jim Laverty, and then they had some other musicians fill in. But Barren Cross did a show recently up in Versailles, or however you say that, and Ohio, right? And they did
Hmm.
a show, and they recorded it and put it on YouTube. And I watched the YouTube. And okay, have you watched this, Steve? Have you watched this? Did you watch the
I
live?
don't think so. No.
Well, it was overall amazing. It was really cool. And I would have loved to have had, the other musicians there, but I think, there's some issues with health issues and different things. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so, which is fine. So, but at one point they got everybody up on stage. And I heard that this was going to happen, that they were going to get a whole bunch of people on stage, and they were looking for people to get up on stage. And they
Okay. I kind of feel like I have seen this part.
and they and they played "Rock for the King" off their first album. We will bump 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 bump
I
rock.
did see this. This is the one
And
part I did see.
so they get these people who are supposedly Barren Cross fans, and they get about halfway through the song, and they play the chorus a couple times, and the gang vocals, they do the rock yell at the wrong point, right? They do "We Will Rock," and Michael Drive stops the song and has to teach these people where to say rock, and then they redo the song. And he was trying to be very nice about it, but I, on the one hand, it made me laugh. On the other hand, I totally why I would be annoyed too. I mean, like,
Mhm.
look, you guys are supposed to be fans. You don't know where to put the rock. Like, this is kind of Barren Cross 101, and I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing through the whole thing because it's sort of like that awkward moment humor sort of thing. And man, they got it right, and they did it, and they did it, they did it. So
Hey man.
I just
So that
had to put that out there because if you haven't seen it, number one, it's a great show, and I enjoyed it, and his voice sounded great, and I thought he did a great job, and it was fun. It was fun, and they played some songs they normally wouldn't. So I thought that was kind of cool. They tried to bring in some songs that were a little more obscure, so it was cool. But I just thought that was funny.
that reminds me, I don't know if you've seen this video online of the Kiss cover band, and I think they're singing "I Want to Rock and Roll All Night." And so, and he's up there and he's like, and the guy's walking around and there's like a whole like audience of people. It's almost like I thought like on a cruise ship or something. I don't even know. But he's there. I'm about to sing Rock for the King. No, he's like, I want to rock and roll all night. And he puts the microphone in somebody's face. He's like, I don't know the words. And he's like, I can't remember the exact way, but it's like at some point the guy goes, I'm not a Kiss fan. Like the people just butchered it, but it was kind of funny. So I don't know why that reminded me of that. I digress.
Sorry, I just had to.
Welcome to Kiss Cover Band podcast.
There you go.
We Okay. This is kind of I'm treading some dangerous waters here, maybe. But the whole tourniquet thing. Have you been following the whole tourniquet
Yes,
thing?
a little. I mean, yeah, a little bit. I can't say that I've gone into any sort of deep dive on it, but
Hmm.
yes, it continues to be a show.
Yeah. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but my guess is that so back and I took a screenshot of the flood Facebook page name change history. So back in 2020, Gary Lanier created the band Flood, created this Facebook page for Flood, and that was in September of 2020. Then February of 2025, the name of the Facebook page changed to 336-04336.
This is how you get the Terminator. This is how you get the
Yeah.
Terminator.
Well, and then in April 21st, the name of that same Facebook page that used to be for Flood changed to Tourniquet Band. Logos Tourniquet, everything. Um, this is what I'm thinking is that they've gone through the sort of negotiation process with the Ted Kirkpatrick estate. Because I mean, Ted owned that name Tourniquet, but and maybe they talked to some lawyers who said, like, no, you have as much right to that name as Ted's people do. Because if you go back and look, and they posted some things like Tourniquet started with Guy, Gary, and Ted.
Yep.
And then I don't know if we're in the process, Ted kind of took control of that name when those guys left. But maybe they're like, you know what, we have just as much right to that. And so they sort of rebranded themselves because it's mostly Tourniquet with a and they posted the other day they've invited all the former Tourniquet members to come back and be a part of it. But some of them have said no. Some of them have also commented on some of their posts and said, like, this is not Tourniquet. Actual band members have said, former band is like, Tourniquet will always be Ted. This is not Tourniquet. Or I'm paraphrasing, but basically.
Wow. No, I saw that they said that they invited Victor, who's an
Hmm.
amazing bass player. I really liked him as a bass player. Um,
Hmm.
and but he declined, so they brought on that young woman, who she's a good bass player too. And
Hmm.
but Eric, I forget his last name. Uh, anyway, the guitar player that was kind of did a lot of solos and stuff on the first few albums, but um, he's coming back to do some stuff. So yeah,
I think.
I don't know everything that happened. I think Gary went through sort of a crisis of faith at one point. So I don't
Hmm.
know how much he fought to keep the tourniquet name. I could be totally wrong. I think he just kind of bowed out and was done with it. And I think, some of the other band members, and obviously Guy was out before that. And so I think it just kind of happened. I mean, that's my perception. It just kind of
Yeah.
happened that Ted retained the name, and so I don't know how much of a legal sort of statement there ever was that Ted did it, but anyway, I think with Ted
But
gone and a lot of those members sort of kind of coming back, I think whatever, do it.
I think that to let the name and the legacy of the band just sort of, you know, go away with Ted's passing is would be sad because, he was kind of the heart behind it in a lot of ways. He wrote a lot of the songs and of course he was an incredible drummer. But I think it would be like I think about like Jeff Lynne's ELO. Like they tour as Jeff Lynne's ELO. Guy and Gary's Tourniquet. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
no, 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 but it's uh, yeah, I don't know. It's
I mean,
it's all a little bit.
they try to do it with the stop the bleeding thing, but I think that they just kind of, I mean, we know what it is. Like,
Mhm.
why do we have to give it a different name? Like, we know what they're doing, you know, like
Yeah,
they're playing
yeah.
old songs from Tourniquet. So just do
And
it.
my feeling is if they couldn't do it legally, they would not be doing it. They probably ruffled some feathers and they'll just move on. But regardless, this is one of those big fat whatevers for me.
Well, and like you said earlier, and maybe before we were recording when you talked about some stuff going on at work about how tens of thousands of people are on the app, and you changed the app and made it more functional, and you heard 5 complaints. It's like that's kind of what happens on social media. There's a whole bunch of
Hmm.
people who probably don't care and are just going to support whatever it is, to whatever degree and to varying degrees, and then you're going to have a few people who you're going to hear the squeaky wheels, and they have
Yeah.
a right to those opinions. They have a right to those opinions too. So, but I, you know, it seems to me like Gary Lanier, starting in late whatever 2018, 19, really felt a passion for music again, and he probably didn't think he was ever going to get to do Tourniquet again, and then I think,
Hmm.
um, as things have evolved with Immortal Fest and different opportunities, I think it's like, oh, I think it kind of the opportunity arose. So there we are. Here we are, and I would have loved for it to have been the full band with Ted, right? I mean, that would have been awesome, but we're
Hmm.
not going to get that. So we just have to be thankful
Yeah.
for what we get. You get what you get.
Yep.
You don't pitch a fit, man. That's another after school special. You get what you get, and you don't pitch a fit.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, the last thing I have on my list of news, which was big, and we don't have to go too much. And speaking of controversial, I posted that cover photo from 1993 from Christianity Today. Lots of strong opinions about Christianity Today, but
Especially
I will,
recently.
yeah, and I'll let it. I do have at least one friend that works at that publication, so I'm just gonna let it slide. I hear you. I'm just saying, I hear you.
Got it. Got it. That's interesting. Well, the only other thing
Yeah.
I was going to bring up was a new a new Christmas album from Striper.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Michael Sweet announced a new, because people were obviously clamoring for another Christmas album from Striper. That was obviously something that everybody wanted.
Absolutely.
Look, he gets to make whatever he wants to make, and I hope it's good. And but it is what it is. So I just thought it was interesting that he was like, okay, it's finally going to happen. I'm like, finally? Like, I don't know that we were waiting. I wasn't really waiting for another Striper Christmas album. Um, did
Well, it's
we
there's
loved Winter
probably
Wonderland and Reason for the Season back in the day, but here we are.
there are probably some super fans that are like that have probably been peppering him with, we love more Christmas music.
Maybe,
But you know what?
maybe
It's fine.
it's fine. Hey, man,
And I
it,
will listen to it.
I will absolutely listen to it, just like I'll listen to the Praise album he's put together or whatever. Like, okay, do what you. I mean, I get it. Like, you're creative. I get it. That's what you do. You sit down and you write songs, and that's a big part of who Michael Sweet is. So,
Hmm.
and
That's good stuff.
he's placed himself in a position which is awesome, that he can make the music he wants to make. Good for him.
Absolutely. Go team. Well, that's all I got for news.
All right. Okay. I got one more thing.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, you know, we've been looking into sort of some ways to sort of do commercials for the merch. So, there's some artists out there we've kind of contacted, and so here's a commercial. We'll see what everybody thinks, and we'll just kind of get to see what everybody thinks about this commercial for our merch store.
Are you a warrior of the word? Then let your colors fly. Christian Geeks unite. It's time to testify. Rock the faith, wear the flame. Merch that lifts his holy name. Christian Geeks Rockcast, stand bold, stand true. This gear's made just for
Stay geeky,
Yes. Christian Geeks Rockcast.
Christian Geeks.
The
right.
bots have not figured out how to say our name yet.
Yes. No. So yes, that's AI, and I was just having fun with trying to come up with ways to do commercials. I was trying to do it in the style of Sacred Warrior, and that's what happened. It wouldn't let me say Sacred Warrior. It would I had to describe elements.
Very nice.
So
Yeah.
so that's what this AI came up with. There you go. All right,
Well,
that's it. That's what I got.
maybe we could contact our good friend Ray Para and have him just record something.
That's right. Stay geeky. Stay geeky, man.
So I'm going to start introducing every episode as Christian Geeks Rockcast. I am so geeky. You know what? I'm geeked up for this episode.
You are geeked up.
Yeah, so special. We're okay. We don't have artwork. We don't have any. This is not an album, although it could be. I may go ahead and make a Spotify playlist. I haven't done that in a long time.
That's true. You haven't. That's a good point.
I haven't done it because, um, time. Some things just have to fall away. And I've started focusing more on doing the YouTube, which some would say I'm not doing a great job of that because it takes way too long for me to get the videos up. But I feel like there's more, you get more traction off of that. Like, because we get, dozens of views on our podcast there, which is great. Because people want to see our beautiful faces.
Obviously.
So obviously. So, but doing a playlist typically of an album that already exists seems a little redundant. But something like this, I feel like maybe a
Yeah, yeah.
thematic is a pretty good one to do. So maybe I'll do a Spotify playlist for this. But it's going to be a little all over the place. And I mentioned this on the video I did on social the other day. Britt, of course, comes at things usually from a little heavier metal perspective. I kind of come at it from a little more, say, rock, alt rock. And the other thing you'll see this as we go through. Um, a lot of these songs, because of the nature of the subject matter, they even tone it back a little bit. They're almost in the ballad category.
Right. Well, you
But
definitely chose a couple of those. Yes, that's true.
yeah, I felt like, but they're by bands that rock and do, like that we would clearly do these albums, but the song is just so, yeah, it's just so meaty as far as after school special material that it was
Yep.
hard to pass it up. So
All right. Well, you kick it off. You start with your first one. Tell the song and why, like what the issue is, what the after school special topic is, and maybe why you picked it.
okay, so my first song is by Carrie Livgren and AD. I guess at that point they were just AD. Um, Games of Chance and Circumstance, which there are so many great like slower songs I think by AD in those earlier albums like Beyond the Pale. This song, there's just some, and they actually had multiple like issue related songs, like Slow Motion Suicide was one I considered, and Free Fire Zone, which is also about abortion. So Games of Chance and Circumstance is about, um it's about abortion. It reminded me a little bit. Hey,
Why
it's a
is
thumbs
it
up.
doing that?
It's my computer. My computer
Oh,
will
okay.
do like I
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
can.
oh, I see. Oh, I see now. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, Games of Chance and Circumstance. It kind of comes at it from the sort of uh guilt trip sort of way of, it's like the lyric, like, a cry of desperation is rising up from all the land. When the wind blows cold, the helpless suffer the sin. Mother, is your blood running cold? You don't care to pay the price. The innocent have never been told they will be the sacrifice. It's really just trying to humanize the right to life
Right.
and abortion situation. So yeah, I mean, to me it's a powerful song. It's a slower song, but if you know anything about Art of the State, it's a great rockin' album from Carrie Livgren. If you don't know Carrie Livgren, I'll be surprised, but he's from Kansas, one of the founders and leaders of Kansas for many years. So
All right, let's do it. It starts very.
okay.
Oh, hold on. let me try this again. Technical difficulties. We'll see if I cut this out. Hold on.
We'll fix it in post.
Where have all the children gone? Who will hear this silent song? Many never cry the tears, nor learn the infant dance. Mother, won't you keep your young? Or are they in the balance hung on games of chance and circumstance? Oh, save the children. And the cry of desperation is rising up in all the land. When the cold wind blows through helpless suffocation.
Yeah, man.
Kind of gut wrenching.
Yeah, we probably could do a whole episode just on abortion songs because
Yeah,
a
100%.
lot of bands did songs about abortion and pro-life and all that sort of stuff. And there was a lot that I considered too. And it's kind of and I mentioned this I forget back a couple of episodes ago about how modern Christianity has gotten away from sort of the revelation, sort of end times teachings, like they kind of stay away
Mhm.
from it. And they've kind of done the same with abortion. Like it was everywhere in Christian, especially the more conservative evangelical Christian, you know, sort of side of it, culture. And, abortion was a huge topic and being pro-life and all that sort of stuff. And it's kind of not gone completely by the wayside. You still have some groups and stuff, but it's not quite as prominent as it was, back in the day. So it's just kind of interesting to me that it was so out front on so many albums back in the day, and now it's not that people don't, aren't pro-life anymore. It's just it's not as sort of out front.
Well, I think it's become, and not to get too far deep into it, I think it's become more politicized now. It used to be sort of more black and white of like, if you believe this way, then this is the way you feel about that topic. There's a lot more gray area in there now, for better or worse. I mean, it's like, you could go probably into my church, which is a fairly conservative church, and you probably get a pretty split view on these
Right.
types of topics. So it's not like you can come out, you know, I mean, I say that not from the church's standpoint, from the people within the church. I'm sure there's some people that feel more, like, well, in certain circumstances and that sort of thing. Whereas back in the 80s, it felt like, oh, you go to church, pro-life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no. So like, again, I thought, I thought it was a good choice. So
Yeah.
so I tried to make some choices that were issues kind of songs, but I tried not to redo a lot of whatever, like some of the ones that you picked. Like I tried not to have another abortion song, although there were a ton of really good ones.
sorry.
No, it's okay. If I Were a Killer would probably have been on here, like by Galactic
Yeah.
Cowboys. But so my first one, I'm going with Striper, Waiting for a Love That's Real. This was off of Soldiers Under Command. I always loved this song. Another big topic of many Christian evangelical songs was waiting for marriage because, coming out of the 60s, especially sexual revolution and 70s, and then into the 80s, you still had this sort of cultural thing about, just people feeling free to have sex all the time or whatever. And you had a little bit of a pushback in the culture, but really there was this sort of, push within evangelical Christianity to sort of help young people wait till marriage, not kind of get into that sort of stuff. So, and this is Stryper's sort of version of that.
It's a great song.
It's a really good song.
It's so 80s, man.
So 80s.
I love it.
His voice is so amazing on that song, and it's got some good hooks. Obviously, it's a little simpler, but it's one of their more kind of pop metal songs, And there were a lot within this topic that I considered. I had Don't Throw Your Love Away by DeGarmo and Key. I mean, there's several that could have been within this sort of topic. But anyway, so there you go. That's my first one.
That's good. That's a good one. My second one is going back a while. And this was very early. I mean, this is an album I love, and I have it. I have the album. I have it on vinyl, but it's from 1981. It's the Resurrection Band, Mommy Don't Love Daddy Anymore, which the topic there is, now it's a little, I mean, veiled behind the sort of the title of the song and the album may not give it away, but it's about divorce.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's about divorce. I mean, I know that it's a little hidden in the plain sight, but yeah, it's about divorce. It's kind of the song, we're not going to hear the whole song, of course, but it's really not super redemptive. In a way, I think the album as a whole is maybe redemptive, but this particular song is really just about the way that one of the children is sort of processing what's going on and basically trying to say, like, everyone's leaving me, and God, and then the last line of the song, God, please don't leave me. Kind of like my whole world is falling apart. God, you're not going to leave me too, are you? So it's, again, I haven't done any real sort of positive after schools, although they weren't all inherently positive anyway, but
Right.
But yeah, so this is about divorce and processing that. Of course, we know that so many marriages end in divorce now, and it seems to be way more of a thing than it feels like. It used to be more tragic, I feel like, than like now it's just sort of the way things go, which is unfortunate. But
well,
yeah.
and it became a little bit more of an issue and talked about more starting in the 70s and then into the 80s. It was a common sort of thing in culture, is that people were getting divorced, and you had broken families and broken homes and remarriages and all that sort of stuff. And so, Kramer versus Kramer was a big movie and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, it started getting
Yeah.
a lot more attention than it did definitely in the 60s. So, all right, so here we go. Mommy don't love daddy anymore.
Mommy says she don't love daddy anymore.
It's actually a really well written song.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy says mommy is walking out the door. Sister says she's getting married to escape. Brother says enlisting sounds just great. Me, I don't know who to believe. Me, I don't know how to maintain the world that used to be. 'Cause everyone is leaving me. Everyone is leaving me. Everyone is leaving me.
His voice is so great on this song, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Those early Res Band albums, Resurrection Band at that point, they're just so good. I mean, it's like Colors to me is one of the greatest Christian rock albums of all time. It's just so good. But yeah, I mean, clearly this is written from the perspective, like in the line there where we faded down. It says, when you're 8 and your family's dying, when you're hurt but too scared to cry, what on earth can you do to find release? God, what is happening to me? It's like the perspective of an 8-year-old processing, like, his sister is going to go off and get married, his brother's going to enlist in the army, my parents are splitting up, my whole world is falling apart.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and the crisis, and it's sort of common, right? The crisis sort of, when there's a crisis like that, the people who can get out a lot of times. And when you're 8, you're kind of stuck in it, right? You're kind of stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes trying to get out of the situation you may not make the best choices in the world, like getting married young or something else. But anyway, so yeah, so it's a great little song, and it's a classic. I think it's a classic song. I think it's one of those classics of Christian rock. And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of issue songs that Res Band did, and we talked about them when we did one of their albums, but he wasn't shy about dealing with some issues that maybe regular evangelical Christianity wouldn't deal with. And he was still all about the hope and salvation and all that stuff, but he was kind of willing to sort of go into some different places of racism and other things. So yeah, good deal. All right.
Yeah.
My second song is by Barren Cross, and it is off of their After School Special album, Atomic Arena. Now, and it's Deadlock. It's about drugs. So we haven't done the drugs thing yet. And so this is about drugs addiction. And some of you may remember how the Nancy Reagan, the president's wife, first lady, really
Just say no.
spearheaded a major movement in schools. And if you were in public schools during that time, there were posters in your school saying, just say no to drugs. And it was probably in other schools too, but I just know that was a huge push during that time for Nancy Reagan. That was sort of her deal. That was something that she really invested a lot of time and energy. So, all right. So, yeah. And so Deadlock from Barren Cross.
Great song.
It's a great song. You know, the second verse
Yeah, that
talks about cocaine and, you know, the pipe's never cold anymore. I mean, it kind of mixes some metaphors in there, but it's a rocking tune, and his voice is great, and it really ends. You know, we don't play the whole song, but it kind of ends interestingly. It doesn't kind of end with the chorus out. He kind of does a lot of riffing on his vocals, and you know, I'm not the one with the problem. You've got the problem. And it's just sort of bringing some of that addiction language in there. So, yeah, cool song.
Mhm. Yeah, those that after school special album is so good. Like that one in State of Control, those two Elefante produced Barren Cross records are so good.
So good. And
But
I love
yeah,
the first album too, but you're right. I mean, it's just Atomic Arena took it to a whole other level musically and production wise. And I
I
think
think the
State of Control, even like there's some really tight music on there. It's really good.
well, and Barren Cross is like, and I think the Elefantes produced Rock for the King too, didn't they? Pretty sure
I
they.
don't remember.
Anyway, I think they did, but I may be wrong. But whenever I was faced with the challenge of which vinyl to purchase between Atomic Arena and State of Control, those remastered vinyls, I chose State of Control.
Oh, wow.
And I think, yeah, and I think it's because that album, like I listened to Atomic Arena and I loved it, but I wore out State of Control. Like it was just one of those things where, and I think that's part of what how I process and decide which albums to like purchase that are these remasters. I could get them all. I don't have the money to get them all, so I have to be selective. So I chose State of Control. All right. So my what song are we on? Third song?
Third song. Yep.
This is I rock out a little bit here.
Yeah, you did.
So, so, and this is one I thought might overlap with Brett a little bit when we were exchanging lists. But so I chose "Dead End Drive" by Holy Soldier. Of course, um, like "See No Evil" would have been the low hanging fruit, but I'd already done an abortion song. So,
Yeah, there you go.
but yeah, "Dead End Drive" is just about drinking and driving. And it's kind of from the perspective of a dude who is listening to the devil on his shoulder, who tells him just to keep drinking and then get behind the wheel, and then the devil is like just kind of hanging out with him while he drives off a cliff, apparently. So
Yeah. And if you're old like us, you might remember Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So
Mhm.
this was another big thing. You know, having a designated driver, and there was a lot of sort of information going out there about, you know, not driving under the influence, and you know, killing, you know, people dying because, you know, they're people driving drunk. So you know, so there it was a big issue is what I'm saying. You know, this also in the 80s you're trying to kind of get this information out there. All right, so here we go. Listening to this, I'm like, oh, who's opening a door? Oh, it's just.
Racing down the road to nowhere, blinded by an evil spell. The devil, he was riding shotgun, southbound on the highway to hell. At the speed of light, we drove out of sight and vanished into the dead of the night. Drunk as hell, filled with anger, the devil looked at me and smiled. He said, "Have another drink, my friend." He was knowing all the while that I lose control and it takes my soul to reach across this fiery coals. Dead and dry, do and die, I'm drinking, driving, suicide, headed down the last road of your life. Dead and dry, do and die, the road to hell's before your bloodshot eyes.
What a great line. The road to hell's before your bloodshot eyes. What a line, man.
I know.
Now, okay, so I was again. I put all these songs onto a playlist on on my iPhone as I was I did like a walk run yesterday and I was listening to them, just kind of getting them going into a deeper dive in my brain, like really paying attention. This song is amazing, and it also sounds thrown together. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else, but it's literally 3 chords. They just play it. They just play the heck out of this song. This is off of Last Train, and the lyrics are good. So, I mean, obviously they spent some time on it, but this is not that complicated of a song musically. It's just, they just play it so freaking well. The drummer is like locked in. Like the whole band is just locked in, and Steven's voice sounds amazing. And yeah, it's such a great song.
It is. It's again, you could break down the song and say like, okay, is the devil really sending everyone to hell that drinks and drives and kills themselves? I don't know. I'm not here to judge. But in this song, that particular, it's like he quoting lyrics here. He said, "Have another drink, my friend," talking about the devil that's looking at him. Looked at him and smiled. "Have another drink, my friend." He was knowing all the while that I'd lose control and he'd take my soul to rake across the fiery coals.
What a lie.
and here's my hot take. I love the debut album from Holy Soldier. It was like everything I wanted Christian hair bands to be back in the day. It was but then this album came out. It was very different, but I love this one maybe equally as much. Last Train.
Yeah, I don't know if I loved it as much, but there were some amazing highlights on Last Train, and we'll do Last Train at some point. I'm sure it was such a phenomenal album.
Like the cover of "Gimme Shelter" is just incredible.
Yeah, my hot take is Last Train was a little more thrown together because for various
sophomore.
Well, sophomore, and Steven left the band for a while, and they had this other singer, and he kind of came back right before they recorded the album, and so it's when you do a cover and you're just kind of looking for material at that point, and but at the same time, it's I love Last Train. It's got some great stuff on it, so yeah, no, good choice. I was like, I had Under the Influence by Bride. That might have made my list. By the way, I've kind of changed a couple of my songs on here. But yeah, so yeah, Drinking and Driving was definite. All right. So my third one is Alone in Suicide by Bloodgood off of Detonation. And we've done the Detonation album. It's one of my favorite albums. So huge to me. Power metal, sort of like Dio and like all that sort of stuff. It was so cool. And there were a lot of songs about suicide in the Christian music industry and rock. And especially when you're dealing in rock, and not that pop didn't have it too, but rock, you can deal with some of these heavier issues and try to give hope, right? And especially when you're dealing with kids who in rock and metal who might feel a little more marginalized. And so, but Teenage Suicide by DeGarmo and Key almost made my list as well, because I love that song and it's such a phenomenal song. It's a little slower, but anyway, so here is Alone in Suicide by Bloodgood.
All is lost in the single reeds. Blank eyes look deep. Love and hope crumble to a feet. I don't care if I made my mark on this angry world that's left me in the dark. Just got a message on my stone. I wanna be alone. should I confide to open my veins and breathe the light over the endless pressure? I cannot cope. I try to release, but the veils are broke. A psychotic grasp upon my throat. I wanna hang the rope. Can you feel it, your friend, as it calls from the black unknown? Was his hand in that your mind echo to the bone? Lone suicide.
His voice is amazing.
Oh my gosh, so good. Yeah, it's this is one of those songs that for some reason I like. I imagine that it's a slow song until
It
they
rocks.
start. It rocks and it's so good. It's like, and then even when it started playing, I was like, oh yeah, Britt chose a slow song too. but it's like, I mean, I don't know. This era of Bloodgood is just incredible. And Les's voice is so good. It kind of goes back like the Striper song.
Oh yeah.
Like the, no offense to the guys now, but we're all getting older. Michael Sweet's getting older. Les is getting older. They can't quite hit those notes again, but yeah. But it's one of those. I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record today, but it's like it's just a tough topic, you know,
Yeah, right.
and it's a little depressing if you dive into it too deep.
Yeah, and you know, this obviously tries to give some hope towards the end, and kind of speak to it about how Jesus offers redemption and hope and cares when we feel alone and all that sort of stuff. You know, and I think you mentioned on text that She's Gone would have been another sort of one along
Mhm.
this sort of thing. But yeah, there were a lot of songs about suicide and some really great ones. And yeah. And was it DeGarmo Key or who were they the ones that had sort of like the suicide hotline on there, like along with their that
Man.
song? Anyway, so
I don't remember.
obviously they're, you know, trying to, you know, there were suicide hotlines back in the 80s, and like they were really trying to, you know, combat that. I don't know how much of an epidemic it was, but they was definitely trying to have ways of bridging that and giving some what we would now today call mental health help, right? So
Yeah, I think you're onto something there as far as how we approached stuff like this in the 80s and maybe early 90s versus how we approach it in 2025. It feels more like there's like a mental health layer that sort of encompasses a lot of this stuff. Um, you know, maybe not so much like abortion or something like that, but there's especially some of the other more sensitive topics. But then we treat things very differently now than we did back then. Like back then, it was like you go straight to the like, this is the problem. We're gonna hit this. There's a nail. We're gonna hit it with a hammer. Now it's like, what kind of tools can we do to build this house or to fix this thing versus like going directly to the issue. So a little more pointed. I'm not sure that you could get away with songs like this these days, or that it may hit different. Although I will say this, I think that going back to the Human Code with Michael Drive, formerly of Barren Cross, who we've mentioned here, and drummer Terry the Animal Russell from Holy Soldier, but those guys, they're still. I think their music still hits pretty like.
yeah,
They tackle the topics.
And I think if you listen to a lot of the modern Christian heavy metal that's out there, they still are in your face about this stuff. They don't pull any punches, So it's still out there. It's just not out there. Does that make sense? Like people still do it. It's just not like on the radio. Like, it's not as just culture has changed, as we've talked about with streaming and all that stuff. All right.
Yeah.
What's your fourth one?
Fourth song. It's a song by a little band called Petra. And this is from their Beat the System record and the song is called Hollow Eyes. And so the topic on this song was starving children in Africa, which again, that's painting with a broad brush. But back in the 80s, you think about like USA for Africa, you know, you think of all the different like
Compassion International, all that stuff.
right. I mean, and there all these things I think still they're still in existence. Remember Ethiopia, you know, with all the starving children and stuff like that. These are all still this is another one where there's these are all still issues.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's just we just don't tackle them as point blank as we used to. But yeah, but this is a song about, you know, starving children and like they specifically well, they call out Nigeria and they call out Haiti, which is not in Africa, of course, but it's kind of like there are people all over the world that are dying, and
yeah,
what can we do to help them? And that's kind of
yeah,
the theme of this song.
yeah. A lot of the Christian bands in the '80s would have a song for Compassion International. You know, they would have a
Mhm.
song on the album that was about helping to feed the hungry. And you can kind of critique it a little bit how they did it, but I think they sponsored a lot of kids. I mean, I think they used whatever platform they had. I think that's a good thing. So, all right, let's do
Well, and how many albums did you buy in the 80s? And this kind of goes out to the audience. Did you buy in the 80s and 90s? Probably more so the 80s, but even the 90s too, I think, that had the little Compassion International like fold out thing
Yep,
where you could sponsor a child. I mean, it's like
yep,
there were so many bands that did
yep,
that.
yep, a lot, which is I think is cool overall. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, for what they were trying to do. All right, let's do it. Hollow Eyes.
Tragic thing over there.
Another day in Nigeria, the children beg for bread. The crops failed, the well ran dry when they lost the watershed. A baby dies, its mother cries, the children gather round. They're wondering what the day will bring. Will they be the next one found? Do you dare to gaze into their hollow eyes? Hollow eyes. Are they staring holes in you with their hollow eyes? Hollow eyes. Hollow eyes.
He had such a great voice too, man.
Oh man. Yeah, we talk a lot about the John Schlitt era of Petra on this podcast, but it's like the Greg Voles era was so many great albums, so many great albums. And this was the last one he did. But later on in that song, it's like this sort of a bridge they where he talks about the least of these.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
least of these is hungry, the least of these is sick, the least of these needs clothing, the least of these needs drink, the least of these knows sorrow, the least of these knows grief, the least of these has suffered pain, and Jesus is his name. It's kind of like, you know, it's like basically pulling it directly out of like the Matthew 25
Hmm.
scripture where it talks about the least of these. So
Yeah, yeah,
good stuff.
and you know, you had sometimes the church gets a bad rap for certain things, and sometimes it's valid. And you know, I can be one of those critics sometimes myself, but there really was a big effort to not just do mission work or just where you're, but also to do, you know, build hospitals and schools and do a lot of relief work around the world, even among the evangelicals. And of course, you know, it's something that the Catholics are a big part of and other liturgical sort of denominations. So, you know, I just think
Mhm.
sometimes the church doesn't get as much credit as it probably deserves for as much of the charitable work that it's done over the years, um, in really legitimate ways. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um,
100%.
anyway, so my what was that for? All right, so now I'm going to go a little more obscure. So this one is an important one to me. This is Broken Chromosomes by Tourniquet.
Mm.
And I think because I was kind of looking at it and I was like, I don't want to do another abortion song. I mean I have so many that I love that are, but I was like, what are some other issues that we can kind of look at from some of these Christian bands? And I almost did the Ark of Suffering from Tourniquet because, by animal rights, but I thought this one was, and there was a lot of sort of press about animal rights in the 80s too. So, and that was really cool and unique. But I thought doing one about kind of Down syndrome and that sort of issue and somebody with a mental disability on an album was really unique for the day. And
Mhm.
and so this is off of the Psychosurgery album, which is a brilliant album, by the way. It's probably a perfect album. And they really hit this hard of, because also sort of starting in the early 80s you started to have more awareness of people with mental disabilities. They weren't just stuck in a home somewhere or some sort of facility. They started to mainstream in my school in the 80s. They were mainstreaming people with Down syndrome and those sort of kids into the regular population. So this was starting to become more of an awareness, and whereas before in some families it would be a shameful thing, or what I mean. And so anyway, this
Mhm.
is kind of an interesting choice of a topic for a song, but I think it's an amazing song. I don't know where I'm going to stop the song because it doesn't really have a chorus. I try to do like through the first chorus. But I can't play the whole song, but I would just really encourage people to listen to the whole song. But anyway, here you go. And it starts a little quiet, so I'm going to have to kind of mess with it.
My God, if you can hear me now, see if your hand can reach this far. You start playing father as soon as mom could see. The only time we touched was just before I screamed. Your father gives to me. Yesterday repeats itself now. Yesterday meant
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a chorus. It was kind of a hook that they come back to.
Mhm.
Just the music is great. The lyrics are just heartbreaking. And Guy Ritter's voice is, I don't know if there's a better Guy Ritter voice song. I mean, that's he kind of plays with his whole sort of range and puts a lot of emotion and angst into it. And I dig the song.
I mean, Kermit the Frog is really angsty in that song. I'm just kidding.
You mean Gonzo?
Gonzo, yeah, that's what I meant. Different Muppet. No, yeah. The thing is like I love Guy's voice. I'll be honest with you. The first time I heard like "Stop the Bleeding," like we got it at the radio station. I popped it in. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Oh, I know, man.
Because I was like, this is the strangest thing I've ever heard, which I've heard a lot of stranger things since then. But yeah, but that, I mean, yeah, you're right. Psychosurgery is just top to bottom an amazing, amazing album. And Broken Chromosomes is it, they were no stranger to like tackling tough topics. Sometimes you couldn't really quite understand what topic they were tackling because they were using scientific terminology, but this one's pretty spot on. Like you can figure it out. But yeah, great song. Absolutely.
All right, you're number 5.
Number 5. Okay, this song it's a classic from the mid 80s. It's Jamie by Crumbacher. And if you watch like real videos back in the day, or listen to probably some Christian rock radio back in the mid '80s, you probably heard the songs from the album Incandescent. Um, the song itself is a little vague, and tried to look to see if I could figure out exactly, is it based upon a certain specific person? What exactly is the specific issue? But it's basically, what I gather from it is it's about a girl who, I don't know if she runs away, but she's out on the streets in Hollywood. I don't know if she's working the streets, quote unquote, if she's selling drugs, selling herself, trying to go out and make it in Hollywood and just doing whatever she can. Essentially, it's basically, what I gather from it is kind of a tale of, hey, that's not where you belong. You belong here at home, back in the life that you grew up in. You don't need to go out and chase that because that's all hollow and frivolous. And but I think it's kind of that sort of like I envisioned, and maybe what I'm envisioning is the music video, but you know how that sort of is a Mandela effect of like,
Yeah.
But it's like a girl out walking down Hollywood Boulevard, trying to get discovered, or for whatever reason trying to get discovered, and who, drugs, whatever. That's kind of what I envision and picture versus, like the life that she left behind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there were songs both in the secular and the Christian music industry that dealt with being on the streets, whether you're a prostitute or whether I'm thinking of like Don't Mean Nothing by Richard Marx, kind of dealt with this about, being taken advantage of, young women being taken advantage of as they're trying to look to be a star. And then you've got, predators who take advantage of this. And this is again, not an issue that has gone away in the world. And we'll just put it that way. And so, yeah. So this is Jamie by Crumbacher. No, Crumbacher. Good tune.
Can you tell what decade that's from? I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
so 80s.
That could have be, yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, so many synths.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah,
Well, that was Crumbacher's thing, man.
yeah, absolutely.
They were they definitely had the gift. But yeah, I mean to me it's a perfect Crumbacher song from it's well written. It's it features the background vocals, it's a great song. Like
Yeah.
the
And just kind of as I'm thinking about it, Addie by DeGarmo Key was another one of these sort of songs that I was considering.
Mhm.
But of course, you had this one on there, so I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do Addie by DeGarmo Key. Like we could probably do a playlist of like honorable mentions at this point.
Oh
Just
yeah.
like doing a playlist of just so many that are amazing. But no, good dude. All right, so here comes my fifth one, and so again, I was trying to think of other topics that were maybe important to me, or maybe just important in the '80s that were just kind of being looked at a little bit more. Uh, and I don't know how much this fits, but it fits for me. When I was in high school, I'm an odd duck still, but I was an odd duck then. I literally had Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech on my wall. I was very interested in the civil rights movement. I was very interested in racism as far as like how wrong it was and a lot of that because I felt like I didn't get a lot of education in that at school at the time. And I mean, we got some for sure, but it wasn't, it was something that I was more interested in and I delved more into when I was in college. And I wasn't necessarily like uber liberal about it. It was something that as a Christian, I felt was really wrong, like this is a really big issue. And unfortunately, I don't know that a lot of Christian music at the time really dealt with racism as much as maybe they could have. I know Res Band did, and we talked about that earlier. But so this is "We Are Finding Who We Are" by King's X. And really, there's really just one verse that kind of hits this, and we probably won't get to that verse. But this is one of my favorite songs on one of my favorite albums. And I used to be able to play this on the guitar just because I love the riff and I love the whole message of the song. So this is off of Faith, Hope, and Love.
Forever is a mountain we've yet to climb. Tears are a part of what is yet to leave behind. Strength in numbers, all you need is two. Everyone's a winner, while still so many lose. We are finding who we are. We can see forever. We are finding who we are. We can see forever. The volume of emotion erupting in our souls. A quiet revelation quickly takes a hold. Patience is a virtue, but she won't always wait. Dissension is attention, is what we learn to hate. We are finding who we are. We can see forever. We are finding who we are. We can see forever.
So kind of the next verse talks more about, it was late September and I remember well, memories of living, the old man told this tale, rise and fall and cruelty unkind. The things the old man told me really blew my mind. Obviously it's hearing about the civil rights movement, hearing about all the different sort of segregation and different stuff that was happening.
Hmm.
And yet I love the song because it kind of puts the topic within a larger sort of, although they don't really say it this way, but it kind of puts it in this larger sort of Christian framework of who are we as human beings, who are we as people, and who are we kind of looking ahead into eternity, right? We can see forever. Patience is a virtue, but she won't always wait. And that, if you know anything about the civil rights movement of the late 50s, early 60s, you know, that was something that the civil rights movement had to combat against, was people saying, just wait. Just wait. It's like, what do you mean wait? You know, like, we don't get to drink from the same water fountains. You know what I mean? Wait, what are we waiting on? You know, this is wrong, and it should be dealt with. And so, anyway, so there's and I kind of picked it because it wasn't a white guy talking about racism. It's a black guy, you know, Doug Pinnick, talking about some of, you know, I don't know how much of that experience he had, but he's a little older, you know, when they were doing King's X. Like, they weren't 20 when they were doing King's X. So he might have had some more experiences that we don't know about, you know?
Oh yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that whole album is incredible. And so often I think, because that's where they had their breakout hit, you know, just It's Love.
Right.
And so that got play on MTV and all that stuff. And it was kind of a big hit. It was their only hit, quote unquote hit. I just wonder how many people bought that album and just were like, what the heck is this? Like, because that whole album is like, you know, they got like Six Broken Soldiers,
I know, it's so eclectic.
and just, yeah, it's all over them. I mean, it's just, but it's so incredible. So incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that
was it.
this has been fun. Do you have any honorable mentions that you want to throw out there?
Oh,
that you haven't mentioned?
I was gonna, like, some of the ones that I had was like Painted Truth by Die Happy, about Indian, Native American sort of stuff. I had, you know, Sacred Warrior, Famine, which is more about the hunger thing. I had Hey World by Petra. I had a number of different abortion songs that I was considering. And I already told you about Ark of Suffering, Mulligan Stew by Vengeance Rising. So yeah.
Some of the ones some of these are kind of funny. But so there was the one I think is the funniest is Kitty Courtesy by Michael Knott. It's about the dangers of cannibalism. I'm just kidding. It's that whole album is, there's a lot of crazy stuff in there. No Mistakes by Mad at the World, which is a, you know, great song about you know, people who feel depressed, like, because their mom and dad told them they were a mistake, and you know, they weren't planning to have the baby and all that stuff. Couple from Scattered Few, Lights Out, which is about sort of gang activity, and then Glass God, Sucking on a Glass God, No Freedom in Basing. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah.
This is out of the blue. Squeeze by Steve Camp. Baby Doe, Steve Taylor. Hide the Beer, The Pastor's Here, which could be any number of things. The Swirling Eddie song. It could be about, I think it's about hypocrisy.
Yeah, right.
You know, yeah, just there, I mean, there's others too.
Okay, so I also considered XL and DVD, Final Blow. I considered Video Action by DeGarmo and Key.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there was a few that I was like, man, what could I pull from that was not outside, but like, you know, gang activity. You know, you had maybe it was the 90s by the time you had you know, some of those gang films and some of the stuff that was going on with the gangs. Well, I was a little bit more out front there in the 90s, like Menace to Society and some of those films, I think. But,
Yeah.
But still, you know, you had some of that within rap and dealing with some of those issues, even in the 80s. So yeah, there was a number that I was all over the map. I was all over the map. I wasn't as much as into the alternative. I figured you were gonna kind of do some of the alternative guys, so I wasn't as I didn't look as much into that stuff. But we could have done Mortal Mortal had that song about sexual abuse, and
Oh yeah.
I mean, like there's just, and they had the video, which is so disturbing, and all this sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I mean,
Well,
there was just all over the map.
one topic that we didn't cover, which I've got a couple of songs on my list that obviously didn't make it. But it's kind of funny how in the 80s it was really a topic, but now it almost seems laughable, is like computer usage. Like
Right.
I've got Computer Age by Sweet Comfort Band and then Computer Brains by Petra.
Mm,
Because I mean, because those were all like, garbage in, garbage out, we're
right.
on the computer so often, our brains are turning to mush. But now most all of us walk around with a computer in our pocket 24 hours a day.
Right.
And so it's like that, like I said, it almost seems laughable. There's probably a lot of truth in there, but it's like we're we're fully computerized now.
Oh, I
We're
know.
recording this on a computer. I'm looking at you through a computer,
Yep.
edited on a computer.
Well, and this is the total 80s thing, but I don't know if anybody saw the video, but there was a reunion of the Breakfast Club actors recently. I don't know if you saw any of these clips.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things they asked, well, the audience asked, what would you bring back from the 80s? Like, they asked the actors, what would you bring back from the 80s? And they immediately, Molly Ringwald said, no cell phones.
Mm.
She said, I would bring back, she says, we can't undo it now. But life was so much simpler. There was less anxiety. There was less this. I mean, like I don't think we realized how great we had it without cell phones. And anyway, so that was like, I mean, she didn't even hesitate. That was, and like all the other actors were like, yep, we agree. Like it was such a different world. Like we don't think we realize how freeing it was to not
Hmm.
have it, Anyway,
And just being fully present in the moment. They bring so much to our lives. We have information, we have the entire world at our fingertips, but um, but also there's that freedom that you have in not having the whole world at your fingertips. And it's hard to explain that to kids who have never
I
grown
know.
up without that.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, boomer, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, no, really.
Oh, I know.
But
Well, and my kids get a taste of it when we go to the cabin and they don't have internet and they don't have TV, and they say we feel so much better after 3 days. After 3 days of this, we just feel so much better. We feel more relaxed. We feel more. It's like,
it's a
yeah,
detox.
it's a detox. All right, so if you have stayed with us this long, you are the real fans. If you have,
We love you. Yeah, if you've stayed with us this long, give me a shout and I'll send you a sticker.
yeah, how about
Just
that?
I'll mail you a sticker for free.
Yeah,
Just let me know.
and let us know other songs that I know. I think we got a little message from Jim Richardson too, about some of his suggestions. So yeah, man, give us some suggestions of songs that we may have missed. Kind of even among our honorable mentions, some of the ones that maybe we haven't talked about. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we've got again, we'll probably do more of these episodes in the future. Not only this, we'll probably do another perfect songs. And then I've thought about some other like guitar solo oriented or whatever riffs. I think riffs was what Jim said, I think was
Oh, okay.
doing one on riffs might be good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So yeah, so there's some good stuff there. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Check us out we're on Facebook, Instagram, our website, geeksrockcast.com. Just connect with us. You can click over to our merch store on the website there and buy some t-shirts or a shower curtain
A throw.
or a throw pillow, whatever, or t-shirts and hats or sweaters. Oh, not sweaters, hoodies, jackets. We got all kinds of crap on there. So go get it. All right, everybody. See you next time.
Peace out.